Hello and welcome to our show, Crooked Doctors. Today is Friday, April 18th, 2014. It's Good Friday, so William Doherty is not in the studio with us today because William Doherty is a practicing Catholic and this is a high holy day for him. So William Doherty is, our regular host, is doing some work or some activities with the Catholic Church since he's a practicing Catholic. So we should have Jason Berg calling in. And in the meantime, what I'd like to do is, you understand that my show is about crooked doctors, and it's about the crooked doctors at Yeshiva University who've made it their mission to persecute me through life. And what I'd like to do, and we're going to build on this in upcoming shows, is I'd like to dedicate today's show to a biologist in Berkeley, California, who is a whistleblower and was persecuted for telling the truth. And why is this important? Because one of his colleagues is at Columbia University. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start building my case and show how Columbia University has no integrity, because this is going to help this professor who's telling the truth about a big, bad company that may be poisoning our environment. And one of the professors at Columbia University, remember, I got my degree, I got an honors degree from Columbia University in biological sciences. And one of the scientists that sits on the advisory board at the Environmental Protection Agency is at Columbia University. So what I want to show is how Columbia University has no integrity. And you remember that last week I went to the FBI, and let me go to, I'm going to switch the camera view for just a minute. So you remember that last week I went to the FBI, to the Federal Bureau of Investigations, and I showed how, and this is one litigation point, I showed how, you know what, let me zoom in a little bit. I showed how my medical school, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, had lied to fraudulently induce me into entering the school. So this is page 64, this is page 364 of my criminal trial transcript, and I'm showing that in 2010, my medical school, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine of Yeshiva University, stipulated to fraudulently inducing me into entering the school. So they stipulated, now this is one of several litigation points. Let me just zoom in on this a little bit. They stipulated that on one promise, they had made a promise to me in the admissions process, and there was absolutely no support for, just one second, let me see if I can get this. There was absolutely no support for my research project, contrary to the College of Medicine's promises that they support student research 100%. Now, I'm getting phone calls from students at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and what I want to show is, whoops, here, this is a better angle, hold it. There we go. Okay, so what I want to show is page 364 of my criminal trial transcript. And this is a complaint to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, that I made on April 10th. And what I want to show is, here we go. This is a little bit better. Next week when I have more time, I'll put it up on the computer so we can read it a little better. But here we go. There was absolutely no support for my research project, contrary to the College of Medicine's promises that they support student research 100%. Okay, so this was a false promise that was made to me in the admissions process. So why is this important? Because it shows that the College of Medicine lied and they had a retaliatory motive. This shows that the College of Medicine lied and they had a retaliatory motive. Oh, let me grab Jason here. Hello. Hello. Good, Jason, I'm going to put you through, okay? Hello.
How you doing? Good to have you be on board on this on the Good Friday.
Oh, well, thanks so much for calling in, Jason. So what I'm doing is, hold on. I got like 3 cameras, 2 monitors. We're supposed to be, I made a few mistakes, so thanks the audience. I'm going to thank the audience for their patience and understanding. I've got 2 computers, 2 cameras, a whole bunch of information that I need to present. What I'm doing is building on what I did last week. So remember, Jason, we looked at the complaint that I made to the Federal Bureau of Investigation where the school stipulated in 2010 that they had fraudulently induced me into entering the school based on false promises. Remember?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to show this week, because I'm building on this, is that, so it's not only just that they fraudulently induced me into entering their school and they violated they misrepresented, that this is false advertising, and that schools are subjected to the same laws that govern any other business. But what I want to show is that they had a retaliatory motive in 2009 and 2010 in pressing false criminal charges against me because they had stipulated at criminal trial that they lied to get me into their school.
And what's so tragic is that this is your life, and hold on.
Go ahead. Jason, are you with your dad at the hospital?
Yes, I'm with my dad. I'm sorry. The thing is, it's so tragic is the fact that you were going to become a professional, You wanted to do research, and they crapped on you, and then they think that they've done nothing wrong, and which is so offensive and repugnant.
Well, it's not only that, but the question is, why are so many people cooperating in these crimes? Because, and I'm going to make some notes here real quick. In 2006, I'm named as a witness against the school. In 2008 and 2009, I go to Columbia University. You know what? I'm going to switch the camera view and see if camera 2 can follow me as I make these notes. So hold on for just 1 second. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, here we go. In 2006, I'm named as a witness against the school in the Abramova case. So Marlene Abramova names me as a witness against the school. In 2008 and 2009, now in 2008, I'm subjected to crimes at Jersey City. In 2008 and 2009, I go to Columbia University, and I tried to speak with Janice Bennett. Okay, we talked about this a little bit before the show. Janice Bennett is co-director of a class called ICM, or Introduction to Clinical Medicine, okay? Now, her other co-director is a guy named James David. He's the dishonest psychiatrist who's been stalking me through life, lying about me. He's also co-director of ICM class. Okay? Now, this is when I'm a first-year medical student from 1994 to 1995. Now, ICM, or Introduction to Clinical Medicine, is a class that goes on for the whole year. And it's got modules, A, B, C, D, E. These are all different classes. And if you fail these different classes, you'd be subject to, the school has a 3-class rule that says if you fail 3 classes, you automatically decelerate. Now, Janice Bennett is director of ICM, and Jimmy David is director of ICM. So my passing grades are reported by Dr. Stephen Blau. Stephen Blau is the small group leader, okay? Now, he's reporting my passing grades to the directors of this class, right? So in 2006, in the Abramova case, when they tried to discredit me, and I've shown these documents before, they tried to discredit me in Marlene Abramova's case by going into court, and these are the college's attorneys, and they're lying, and they're saying Lydia Radin failed all her classes except for Todd Olson's anatomy class. Well, that's not true, because my passing grades from Dr. Stephen Blau were reported to Jimmy David, the co-director of Introduction to Clinical Medicine, and they were reported to Janice Bennett. Okay, so my passing grades in ICM, which is going on through 1994 to 1995, this is most of the school year, are being reported. Now, Jimmy David, in the Abramova case, was the dean of students. So I'm named as a witness against Jimmy David. Well, in 2009, he goes down and he files false criminal charges against me, claiming I'm harassing him. I'm not harassing him or anybody because I have a legitimate purpose in contacting the school. So it's not criminal charges when I have a legitimate purpose. So Dr. Stephen Blau is reporting my passing grades to Jimmy David, who I'm named as a witness against, and to Janice Bennett. Well, in 2008 and 2009, Janice Bennett is at Columbia University, okay? She's not with Yeshiva University anymore. And Columbia University has a policy that says if you tell the truth, you should not be retaliated against. So here's Janice Bennett, and I'll get a photograph of her and show her. Here's Janice Bennett, and in 2008 and 2009, she's a clinical psychologist at Columbia University. Now, she doesn't work for Yeshiva University anymore. She works for Columbia University that has a policy that says if you tell the truth and work for our school, you should not be subjected to any kind of retaliation. So I'm like, okay, Janice Bennett is a clinical psychologist. She's working at student health at Columbia University. She's providing treatment, or she treats provides counseling to Columbia University students. I'm just positioning this so that I'm still title safe so everybody can see this. Okay, so let me just play around with this, my little pad for a second here. Hold it. As I talk you through these notes, hold on just one second. Oops, here we go. I'm kind of doing this backwards, so I'm sorry if okay, here we go. So Janice Bennett is at Columbia University. She's a clinical psychologist. She's supposed to be providing counseling to Columbia University students. And she's co-director of ICM class. So my passing grades by Dr. Stephen Blau are reported to her. So I go to Janice Bennett in 2008 and 2009, and I tried to make an appointment at Columbia University to sit down with her and her supervisor. And what I'd like Janice Bennett to do is to confirm that I did not fail ICM class. I did not fail all my classes as a first-year medical student except for Todd Olson's anatomy class. This is the lie they had told about me in federal court in 2008 when I'm named as a witness in the Abramova case. Now, Janice Bennett owes me a legal duty because I'm the one that paid, my tuition dollars went to pay her salary and fees. So she owes me a duty to be truthful and forthcoming. She doesn't do that. What she does is she runs down to the public safety office at Columbia University and claims that I'm harassing her. Now, I'm not harassing her because I have a legitimate purpose in speaking to Janice Bennett, because remember, she's co-director of ICM class. Okay, are you with me so far, Jason?
Yes, I am.
Okay, she's co-director of ICM class. She has a duty, a legal duty, a moral duty, an ethical duty to be truthful and forthcoming and to confirm the facts that I did not fail ICM. Even though her co-director, Jimmy David, He was co-director of my ICM class. Now, in the Marlene Abramova case, he's dean of students. And I've been named as a witness against him. He's also responsible for stalking me through life. Now, Dr. Stephen Blau, who's the small group leader, remember, Dr. Stephen Blau is my professor. He's a physician. He's an experienced practicing psychiatrist. And he's the small group leader as I go through Module A in ICM, which is like Introduction to the Patient. Module B is something like, psychopathology. You got...
As a point, in 94, 95, you're taking a course.
Right.
You're an honor student from Columbia.
Right.
How can, and my question is, do you fail anything in the first year?
During my first year of medical school, that's actually a very good question. During my first year of medical school, I was so mismanaged that I did fail 3 classes. The first class that I failed was biochemistry, which is a major class, and then I failed 2 minor classes. And you can make those up. So I failed 3 classes because I was mismanaged and entered into a decelerated program. I should have fought that, but I didn't, because I was provided with no...
So my question is, how did you get mismanaged? I mean, these are supposed to be professional educators, not professional morons.
I refused to cheat in anatomy lab. So my anatomy partners were Robin Patton and Kevin Riley. And Robin Patton concocted a scheme to cheat. And what we were supposed to do is act stupid and helpless so that we can manipulate our professors into doing our work for us. And I refused to go along with that. So I didn't go into a whole lot of detail, but I asked my professor, Todd Olson, who ran the anatomy class, to please put me in another group because I refused to go along with that. Therein ensued a nightmare that leads us to today. They tried all these dirty tricks. They tried to put us into counseling with Janice Bennett. Now, Robin Patton's scheme to cheat is not a problem that originates with Lydia Radin. You don't treat Lydia Radin like Janice Bennett was there to counsel us. So basically, the scheme is they force contact with a so-called mental health professional. They tried to get us into these counseling groups. This is not a problem that originates with me. I don't have to deal with it. And Martin Bockstein, who's the former general counsel, tried to get us to sign contracts wherein we would promise to do our work honestly. Now, this is the most insulting thing that was ever given to us. Because, I'm not a child in medical school. Kevin Riley is not a child. Robin Patton is not a child. We were older students. Riley had run his own company. He was a captain in ROTC in the military. I had run my own company. I had done lots of things. Robin Patton was not a 22-year-old child. And they're trying to, Martin Bockstein is trying to get us to sign contracts where we promised to do our work honestly. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Before I went to medical school, I was working in clinical situations with patients, and now I'm going to sign this stupid little contract that says I promised to do my work honestly? That was...
But the thing is, you don't even have to sign that, because when you are a student in any field, you have a contractual obligation of your loyalty to the academics.
Well, beyond that, this is not a problem that originates with me. So, and I don't need to get into a knockdown, drag-out brawl with my anatomy dissection partner. You want to, and by the way, this is the single best piece of information I can give to pre-meds out there. Okay, this is a school where the students get a beat on the professors, and the whole dynamic of the school is how to manipulate other people into doing your work for you. Now, is this a dynamic that you want to deal with in medical school? Because that's not. Go ahead.
But the real thing here is that, as a professional, if you're doing your work, how can you grade yourself on other people's work? You have to know what you're doing personally, and that's your personal success. I mean, the word professional means that you take yourself and do things better for yourself.
Well, what they want to see in an anatomy group, because there's always this level of manipulation that goes on in the school, what they want to see in an anatomy lab is how you work in a team. So I'm not working in a team with someone who has, who devises a scheme so that we can all pretend to be stupid and helpless, and who's actually giving me lessons, coaching lessons, and how to act stupid and helpless so that our professors can do our work for us. If that's a place you want to go to medical school and you always want to deal with that dynamic, go ahead. It was the most disgusting thing that I had ever been a part of. But what's important is, and I'm going to switch the camera view back to my notes here, is that in the Abramova case, I'm named as a witness because I was so mismanaged during my first year, and they had tried all these manipulations that, and they had expelled me without a fair hearing. They had falsified my education. They had done horrible things. Apparently, this was a pattern and a practice because they did the same thing in the Marlene Abramova case. So I'm named as a witness against her as she goes into, against the school and against Jimmy David. Okay, so the school has a retaliatory motive. They've had a retaliatory motive, remember, since I entered the school, because that's the point of this complaint to the FBI, right? They stipulated to fraudulently inducing me into entering the school, and I want to show the case law that supports this from the New York Law Journal in just a moment, because what you want to see from the New York Law Journal is case law that shows, for example, and this, you know what, I might as well just jump to this very quickly, and I'll expand on this more, but this is a case from the New York Law Journal. Let me zoom in on this a little bit. And what this is showing, what this case is showing, is, this is from the New York Law Journal, and this is a case with Andre versus Pace University. And the reason why I'm showing this is because this case shows that common law, because I'm going to tie this all together, this is a judge who's ruling on this case, and he says, listen, schools are not sacrosanct, right? And their students are consumers too. And what this case shows is that, and this ties into your work with common law and common law grand juries, is that educational institutions are governed by the same laws, both statutory and common law, okay? And common law that govern all kinds of other institutions and businesses that provide services. So students are consumers too, and the educational institution is governed both by statutory laws and common law. That's important for some of the work that you're doing with the NLA, okay? So I'm gathering together the case law that supports lawsuits against the school, and there's no statute of limitations. And it's a shame you're not in the studio to see this. Hang on for just 1 second. Okay. I want to get.
Well, it's very interesting. New York State is a common law state, and every part of their legislation it states common law, yet they don't practice it, which is an oxymoron.
Well, what we got here is we've got this case from Andre versus Pace University, and what they're saying is that the judge here is saying that statutory laws and common law applies to institutions like the school, and there's a whole long list of all kinds of institutions. Students are consumers. They're subjected to to deceptive practices, and this, I think he even says, I'm going to read this. He even says that students are consumers of educational services, and they're particularly susceptible to misrepresentations, like I've shown, and fraudulent inducements to to purchase educational services. So in my complaint to the FBI, and this is just one litigation point, but it's one that they stipulated to, you fraudulently induced me, you made promises, and you didn't make good on those promises. And this shows that when the school made false criminal charges against me, they had a retaliatory motive. I have, and I continue to have, a legitimate purpose in contacting the school, but I want to show how Columbia University has no integrity. And so let me get back to this. Hold on for just one second. So we're going to go back to, why am I having problems with, okay. So we're going to go back here. And what I want to show is, I just want to get through the facts because this is really important. So I'm in school in 1994 to 1995, irrespective of the fact that I'm mismanaged and I failed 3 courses, which, by the way, I didn't fail all my classes because there's a three-class rule. If you fail 3 classes, you must automatically decelerate. So I could not have taken class after class after class. But in 2006, I'm named as a witness in the Abramova case. In 2008 and 2009, I go to Columbia University to speak with Janice Bennett. She's co-director of ICM class. Now, my passing grades are reported to her. She's co-director. And if I had failed Module A or Module B or Module C or Module D or Module E, these are all considered separate classes. That would have been a reason to decelerate me. Now, Dr. Stephen Blau, who's a small course leader, he's an experienced psychiatrist. I see, he says, I'll show the stipulation, he stipulates to the fact that I did not fail his class. And he's stipulating to this in 2010 at criminal trial. Okay, so the judge in criminal trial has gotten stipulations that the school has a retaliatory motive. They've had a retaliatory motive against me since day one, where they fraudulently induced me to enter the school based on false promises, false advertising.
Question.
Sure.
What's the retaliatorism, and you're in court and they see it? How come the court is not even addressing this perversion of abuse by this institution that's been going on for so many years? I mean, if they see it, why didn't the court judge do anything to reprimand them or fine these people?
Very interesting. The criminal trial judge was Judge Edward J. McLaughlin. So Judge McLaughlin in criminal court at 100 Center Street, he's got enough information in his hands by stipulation that the school has a retaliatory motive. So you don't convict me, the innocent victim, when the school is stipulating to having a retaliatory motive, because I was railroaded, because what happened is they used the Manhattan District Attorney's Office to silence me. Okay, they don't want pre-meds to know. Now, let me get through this, because remember...
my question here.
Sure.
How did they silence you? Or how did they try to silence you?
Well, they tried to discredit me as I got Jimmy David running around behind my back telling people that I'm his patient when I'm not. In fact, the techniques used to discredit me were also used against this other biologist. And this is a biologist from Berkeley. We're going to get into this next week. He's a whistleblower. He started telling the truth about a big company that has been poisoning the environment with a chemical. And the same techniques they used against me, they used against him. It's the same techniques they used against Ralph Nader when Ralph Nader was preparing a book, I don't know, like decades.
Would you compare what they've been doing to you and this other professor as Soviet psychiatry?
Yes. In fact, the communications director, internal documents that were released in his case, the communications director explicitly, they've got explicit internal company documents that show that the the public relations team maliciously, diabolically plotted to discredit this scientist, this biologist. They wanted to discredit him any way they possibly could. They would hound him, his wife, and some of the techniques that he used to protect himself, like carrying a tape recorder. You know, the Olympic tape recorder is your best friend. I mean, I'm going to go into this a little more depth and detail, but the reason why I bring this up is because one of the he's talking to the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, and one of the scientists at Columbia University sits on the advisory board of the Environmental Protection Agency. So what I want to show is Columbia University has no integrity. Now, I'm a biological science major from Columbia University. Columbia University, based on the lies that Janice Bennett told, declared me as persona non grata. I'm not allowed on Columbia University's campus, and they had the evidence in their hands to show that Dr. Blau and I were telling the truth. So here you go, here you go, fellow scientists. When you blow the whistle on the big bad companies and the big bad school, they come out, all the techniques that were used against me were used against him. They're the same.
Let it just go on. Now, you're an alumni of Columbia, correct?
Correct.
Now, and there was no basis of them keeping you off campus except this woman's statement. Was there any investigation that called that you were harassing her? Was there any proof that you were harassing her?
Very good question. Hang on for just 1 second. Hello? Oh, okay, Ben, hold on. I'm going to put you through, okay? Oh, great. I probably just lost Jason. Ben, are you there?
I'm here.
Great. I think I just lost Jason. He's going to have to call back. But Jason asked, here we go. Let me grab this. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello?
I guess Bill is making
Hello? Jason?
Jason, yes, I got dropped.
Okay, you're back on air. Okay?
Fantastic.
Okay, Jason, we got Ben here too. And
Hi, Ben.
Hi, how you doing?
Great.
I guess Bill is making the stations of the cross today, huh?
It's a high holy day for practicing Catholics. Strictly speaking, I shouldn't be here either. But
You know, I
any
saw you down
Christian-
there at the
Christian
courthouse
holiday.
on TV today.
pardon me?
I saw you on TV down at the courthouse with Paula.
Oh, you mean with Paula Gloria?
Yeah, did you see the show today?
No, I didn't get a chance to because I was busy collecting up the case law that supports my case. Jason asked a very good question, and I want to answer this because this is really good information for, you asked me a question, and it's not just about me anymore. It's about this scientist too, this biologist who was persecuted just like I'm being persecuted. And remember, they used these techniques against Ralph Nader. Ralph Nader, decades ago, was writing a book called Unsafe at Any Speed. And what he was showing was that, the dangers that you take when you're driving a car. Well, the auto industry didn't like that, so they persecuted him. And I think that they
They did a good job, too.
yeah, but he caught them. He caught them at it, and he got so much money that now Ralph Nader stands up to these folks. So the same techniques that were used, these are tried and true techniques that were used against me, were used against this biologist, this scientist too. We're going to get into this a little bit more. And what he needs to know is that the scientist that he's dealing with, who sits on the the EPA advisory board, happens to be at Columbia University. Well, you know something? Columbia University has no integrity. They talk a good game, but they have no integrity. So
most institutions talk a good game. They don't have integrity.
not Columbia. Columbia distinguished itself by not doing these kinds of things, and they really dropped the ball here. They disappointed a lot of people. So this is what you need to know, because Jason, let me get through this in about 5 minutes. Jason asked a very good question. And so what I want to do is answer that question. Did Columbia University do any kind of investigation? So I go to Janice Bennett. Now I go to her and her supervisor. Okay, and I went to Vice President Samuel Seward. Vice President of Student Health is a doctor named Samuel Seward. Okay, and I'm saying, look, Janice Bennett has an obligation. She has a moral, ethical, and legal duty to me, and I am not harassing her when I come to Columbia University campus and I ask her to confirm that back here in the Abramova case, the school lied. I did not fail ICM class. Dr. Stephen Blau reported my passing grades to Janice Bennett and to Jimmy David. I've been named as a witness against Jimmy David in the Abramova case, so he has a retaliatory motive, okay?
Where does Boxstein fit into this? Because I know every time I see Jimmy David, the two of them are hand in hand.
Exactly. It's like it's a little criminal gang. And that's a very good point. And thank you so much, Ben, for bringing that up, because it's Martin Bachstein, Jimmy David. Now, I talked to President Joel. In fact, I had to chase him across. He was going to an event at, this is Yeshiva University's president, President Joel, was going to an event at Lincoln Center. And I approached him. He was there with his wife and his daughter, and I wound up chasing them across Lincoln Center Plaza. Now, President Joel never pressed charges against me. So this is telling you, whoever pressed these false criminal charges, these are tenured professors, okay? Maybe Rabbi Lamb wanted to get rid of a few people, but you can't get rid of tenured professors unless they do something really, really bad, like lie in court, press false criminal charges. Because if I was really harassing someone, President Joel from Yeshiva University would have pressed criminal charges against me, and he didn't. So I'm a witness against Jimmy David, Martin Bachstein, Todd Olson. Many of the same people who violated my rights did the same thing to Marlene Abramova as a pattern and a practice of hurting students at this school. Now, I went to Columbia University, and I went to their ombudsman's office, and I had Dr. Stephen Blau's written performance evaluations. I'm going to make a note to myself and show them again next week. I gave these to the Columbia University ombudsman's office, and I said, I'm not harassing this woman, okay? I have a right to sit down and talk to her and her supervisor, and she has a duty to me, a legal duty, an ethical duty, a moral duty, as co-director of this class, to confirm that these attorneys lied in federal court. I did not fail all my classes as a first-year medical school student, except for Todd Olson's anatomy class. Dr. Blau is reporting my grades to Janice Bennett. Janice Bennett doesn't work for Yeshiva University or its medical school anymore. She's at Columbia University now, and they have a policy that says she should not suffer retaliation for telling the truth.
Well, the thing is that answer the question. The question was how she said these charges were harassing her, and what is the procedure to prove harassment in an academic institution?
I wasn't harassing her. I went to the...
No. I'm just saying you weren't. We know. I'm just saying, what is her proof? And what was her proof that she had against you? And what was the institution of Columbia's resolve to prove that you were harassed?
Well, Columbia University never did I went to their public safety office. I went to their ombudsman. Janice Bennett had a retaliatory motive because I filed my complaint against her in federal court in 2004. But when I called her and said, listen, I just want you to tell the truth, and I'll remove your name as a defendant. You're now at Columbia University. You should be able to tell the truth. So instead of telling the truth, she goes down to the public safety department, files false charges against me, claiming she's harassing me. I'm not. I have a legitimate purpose in contacting you. And what does Columbia University do? They retaliate against me, the innocent victim. So Columbia University had in its hands the performance evaluations from Dr. Stephen Blau. He is a phone call away. So tell me why Columbia University in 2008 and 2009 could not make a single phone call to Dr. Stephen Blau and confirm that I did not fail ICM class, and that they now have an employee, Janice Bennett, who lied to persecute an innocent victim, me. I went up to, remember, the vice president of student health. Wait till, this is Samuel Stewart, wait till the parents find out that the person who's supposedly providing counseling to their children at Columbia University, Janice Bennett, is a liar. And not only will she lie for Yeshiva University, and remember, I was letting her off the hook here. I was like, I'll remove your name as a defendant in my federal case. All I want you to do is tell the truth. But instead of doing that, not only does she lie for Yeshiva University, but she continues to lie to Columbia University, and Columbia University conspires in her lies to have me removed from campus. There's no reason to remove me from campus. And I actually have to go through a criminal trial in 2010 and have Dr. Stephen Blau stipulate to the fact that I did not fail ICM class.
Well, here's a question for you.
Okay.
Are those charges still on the campus of Columbia
Uh,
against you?
are the charges still, am I still persona non grata at Columbia University? Yes,
Right.
I am.
And my question here is now, they created a false record, which actually it's called an indictable offense in New Jersey, but it may be called something else in New York State. But again, this is a felony charge because anytime you use the courts to provide a false document, it's a felony. Anything over a year is a felony, plus fines of this individual. So when the common law grand jury in New York State on April the 22nd has the common law grand jury convened in upstate New York, this is going to make it easier because this is going to be a run. Everyone who did something wrong against you and other people in the state of New York, New Jersey, and all the other 50 states will find themselves in a terrific amount of hurt because of their conspiring to defraud the American people, their residents, their taxpayers, and in a common law, the remedy has to be solved. If there's no victim, there's no crime. And what you have been going through, you have been a victim more times than ever, like over 20-something years. And it's just disheartening that here you are a great person, and they destroyed your opportunity to be a greater person by being a researcher and providing a fantastic resource that they destroyed. And there's not enough money in the world to pay back every individual who's been violated over this is the last year.
Well, what you're saying is that, yeah, when Columbia University defamed me by having me removed from campus as persona non grata, yeah, they're subjected to a lawsuit by me. And now that I have the stipulations, remember, they had the evidence in their hands. This is very disappointing on Columbia University's part. So all I have to do is go down to Columbia University and say, now what are you going to do? I mean, why are you continuing to persecute me? This scientist was persecuted for, I don't know, 11, 10, I don't know, several decades. I'm still going through the New Yorker article, Science for Sale. But near as I can figure, he was persecuted for being a whistleblower, for telling the truth for 11 years at least. And it's the same tried and true techniques. But yeah, and what's important about the case from the New York Law Journal that I'll do a better job of presenting next week, this is Andre versus Pace University, is that the judge here states explicitly that students are consumers too, and that educational institutions are governed by the same laws, both statutory, so they manipulate the statutory court. It is abusive process and malicious prosecution, but educational institutions are governed by both statutory and common law. So on April 24th, 2014, in Greene County, when the common law grand jury is constituted, let me take this call, I can invoke a common law grand jury and indict all these people, and they deserve it. Hello, thank you for calling our show. I'm going to put you through. Hello?
Hello.
Okay, so there's our caller, and I just dropped my other call. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hey, I called last week. The common law grand jury have been following you. I was removed from college too, upstate, very similar situation. And
I'm going to put you through, Jason. Go ahead.
yeah, I just so I'm looking at pursuing charges too. But would you consider yourself a targeted individual?
Yes, I would.
Did you know that there's a group called Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance? It's about 4,000 people around the world, and they have a website and a show. They're subjected to all kinds of harassment and stalking techniques, very similar to what you're saying. I spoke on their last November. I'm actually going to be speaking again. But there's a whole group of people that have been subjected to that kind of behavior, when they speak out against things. So I don't know if you're familiar with that.
So what you're saying is there is a website for people who speak out against abuses, and it's the same tried and true. What's the name of their website again? We'll show it next week.
Freedom from Covert Surveillance and Harassment and Surveillance.
So there's about a freedom from covert surveillance,
harassment and surveillance, or surveillance and harassment, one or the other.
Okay, so we'll show their website next week. But what you're saying is these are tried and true techniques that you tried.
They did this. They did the same thing to me upstate.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So you would probably be very interested in knowing that you could hold the school that did this to you accountable through common law as well as through statutory law.
Oh, absolutely. I've been doing research, and I'm actually getting mentored by people. There's actually a non-judicial procedure that you can file against them. It's called a distress, and I've been doing an intense study on that in the past. It's a totally commercial instrument. So.
Okay, good. What I found very interesting about this biologist, and remember, my degree is I'm an honors graduate of Columbia University with a degree in biological sciences. What I found very interesting, we'll probably have to reach out to him, is that he's using this, not only is he's subjected to the same persecution, but he's reaching for the same kinds of protection. I just want to read this because this is great. He noticed that when he was being persecuted, that other scientists seemed to remember events differently. So he started carrying an audio recorder to meetings. The Olympus tape recorder, ladies and gentlemen, your best weapon in protecting yourself against persecution. I've said that before. I'm going to have to get a commercial out of the Olympus tape recorder people. But he also does similar things. He's got several secure locations for his data. He makes sure that he spreads out. There's a number of different techniques that he uses that I use too to protect myself against persecution, including publicity, which, to quote Martin Bachstein. And I'm sorry, Ben, that I dropped your call. Thank you for your patience and understanding. But former general counsel of Yeshiva University, Martin Bachstein, and I'm going to steal or paraphrase a quote from him, publicity is a strong disinfectant.
Absolutely.
Do that.
So that's why we're doing this show. And one of the things that we're going to have to look at is there's another case here that I'm going to have to present next week. But in Andre versus Pace University, they're showing that yes, students are consumers of educational services, and there's a whole laundry list of all kinds of deceptive practices, misrepresentations, fraudulent inducements that are used for all kinds of institutions, including banks. So,
and the real thing is outrageous. There, with the bank frauds that are there, they need a promissory note to do a foreclosure on the property, and if they don't have the original promissory note, it's not a contract, and it actually, even if it's Xeroxed, it can't even be done. So there's a lot of people who've been defrauded. What is it? The Washington Mutual lost a whole bunch of documents, and when Chase Manhattan Bank took them over, they had no documentations and no transfers. It's unbelievable. You got to see. I'll have to send this on to you, and you can show it on another time there, Lydia. How we are being
thank you for
defrauded.
calling the show.
I'm sorry? Hello?
Yes, Ben, yeah, I'm here. Hold on for just 1 second. We have another caller. If you guys hold on for 1 second, he's got a question, so I'm going to put him through. Okay? Here you go. Go ahead, ask your question.
Yeah, it's just a curiosity thing. Other than this show, which appears to be on the surface your life's work, Do you have any outside interest other than this, or this is all consuming with you?
I think you've called my show before, haven't you?
Yes, and I am totally amazed by what you seem to be doing as your life's work.
I didn't plan on doing this as my life's work, but this is valuable information. No, I'm glad you called me. I don't mind the harsh questions. This is important information for every pre-med. If Dr. Garg, for example, had gone out into the public forum, because his life was ruined, or almost ruined. I mean, he had to fight to get his life back. If John Casey had gone out into the public forum, if I wish you hadn't hung up, because I actually wanted to talk to this caller. Hold on for just 1 second. Jason, thank you so much for your patience and understanding. I know, it's my fault. It's my fault. Let me put you through again. Thank you so much. Here we go. There, I did it right. Okay.
All right, good.
No, it's my fault, because you got to hit the button twice. I wish that the other caller had not hung up, and he was making a criticism saying this appears to me my life's work. I really wish it wasn't. But this is the position that Yeshiva University put me through. They have not stopped persecuting me. Now, there's something very wrong with Jimmy David, or James David, when he runs around behind my back telling people I'm his patient when he's not. There's something very wrong with corrupt officials that will go to Manhattan District Attorney's Office and press false criminal charges, because what I'm doing with the federal student loan fraud is I'm scratching the surface. Because what you don't understand, what the caller doesn't understand, and this is my working theory, is that they probably took all our loan notes and gave them to one bank and got a sweetheart deal. That's my working theory. Why do I think that? Because NYU, New York University, got into trouble by just referring students or steering students to a preferred lender list. And they actually had to say they were sorry to students. This was reported in the newspapers by putting together a scholarship. So what the school had done, and this is illegal, is they had steered, NYU had steered their students to a preferred lender list of banks. And it's almost, it gave the appearance of impropriety. Now, when I left Yeshiva University's, or the Albert Einstein College of Medicine's Student Financial Aid Office, my promissory note did not state who the lender was. So why are they trying so hard for me not to know who the lender was? And it's illegal for a student to leave the Student Financial Aid Office or the Student Finance Office without a completed promissory note. So my working theory is, because remember, Mike Tyberg was subjected to federal student loan fraud, I was subjected to federal student loan fraud, I'm sure there are other students out there who were subjected to federal student loan fraud. Why our working theory is that all these promissory notes had been delivered to a bank, and the school may have gotten a sweetheart deal in exchange, and that's what we need to look at. So I didn't plan on this being my life's work, and I wish it wasn't. I wish my life's work was not being persecuted by Yeshiva University. But remember, they lied to put me in jail. They stalked me through life like an animal to discredit me. And some of the techniques that they used, and they used against this scientist, they tried to have this guy declared mentally ill. I mean, they were doing a psychological profile of him. They were studying him to discredit him. So when whistleblowers come forward and tell the truth, this is how you're persecuted. The single best. Go ahead.
There's a term for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's called gaslighting. It's based on a movie that was out in the 1930s, and they used to have gas lights, and so the husband used to turn the gas light down, and the wife would come in and say, "Did you turn the light down?" And he said, "No, you're imagining it, honey." And that's all. Those are all examples of gaslighting, when you're trying to make people feel like they got the problem instead of you. And that's what they do to a lot of these targeted individuals, and they end up in psychiatric hospitals because these people keep telling them that there's something wrong with them.
And it's not.
The irony is there are laws that protect whistleblowers, and yet the establishment doesn't do its diligence to provide the protection to these people who are protecting the American taxpayers.
Well, what amazed me about about Yeshiva University is why aren't there more people outraged? I mean, these are your tax dollars. How can you really I mean, we went to Elie Wiesel, Nobel Peace Prize winner, Holocaust survivor. I mean, how can they tolerate, you know, where's the outrage? It's not just me. It was John Kokasi almost had his career ruined. Heidi Weissman, Diane Persky, A.J. Garg. It's a shame Marlene Abramova ruined her case, but Marlene Abramova, Siobhan Patiar, Mike Tyberg, Lydia Radin. I mean, like, I'm falling over the bodies. Why are you people funding these crooked doctors? And the interesting point about this biologist is what he should have done. I think what an effective response was. He actually had a meeting way back when he was probably too trusting at that point. But he had a meeting with some of his critics from the big bad company that persecuted him, and he's talking about how the pesticide or the herbicide that they're using is may indeed be a poison and interfere with hormones. He should have said, well, and this is the same thing that Erin Brockovich did when she was meeting with representatives from a company that had poisoned the water. She's like, you see that water that you're drinking? We brought that in special just for you. Well, what he should have done was given water and food that had that pesticide in it to the representatives of the company that came and met with him, and you'd see how fast they would work to clean things up when they felt they were being poisoned. In the Erin Brockovich case, it looked like the judge let the case go through because he was worried about himself being poisoned and his family being poisoned. So when it hits them as hard as it hits you, then you'll see how fast they move. The mistake that he made way back when, and I'll go into this article a little bit more.
That's an interesting point. In New York State, the GE still hasn't cleaned up its carcinogens in the northern region of the Hudson River, and if you go down in New Jersey, is the number one most polluted state in the United States, followed by Pennsylvania and California, not necessarily in that order. But again, these abuses are there, and yet the EPA beat someone up for a turtle. Yet but for the real thing, they don't do anything.
Well, they've co-opted the regulatory agencies, and part of us holding their feet to the fire. Remember, we're going to go out in about a minute. Remember, it's the EPA that told the 911 first responders to knit all this together, that when they were breathing the air down at Ground Zero, that it was perfectly healthful, and there was healthful. And there was nothing wrong with the air. So what the regulatory agents, what happens is the regulatory agencies are co-opted. So what we want to look at is we're going to follow this some more. This is a Berkeley biologist who spoke out about a common herbicide, and the manufacturer plotted maliciously to discredit him. And the same techniques that they used to persecute him were and are being used to persecute me. And we're going to look at how we can use common law grand juries to put a stop to it. Is that okay with you guys?
That's fantastic. The bottom line here is that people have more power than they know they have. It's the apathy is the most dangerous thing in our society, and as long as you have apathy, you have alienation, then the government doesn't have to recognize what they're not doing. And once you start being participated in your government, then they start fearing you. Your government should not fear, you should fear the government needs to fear you. And without our consent, there is no government, and there's no servants.
Okay, so same time, same channel next week, guys?
God bless.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye.